Dream therapy is mindful dreaming and mindful sleeping for a happier, healthier life. Now, recalling dreams and working with them while awake is a huge step forward for mindful living because it connects us with the deepest part of ourselves. When we open up to our unconscious minds, we allow ourselves to step into a deeper way of living, a more positive, happier, healthier way. The unconscious is really an incredible force. It can actually suppress memories that we've completely forgotten about, even traumatic memories. And it's only when we bring these memories to the surface that we can then begin to heal them. Once I was giving a creative writing class, and I asked everybody to bring in a dream the next time they came in. And one guy said, well, I never remember my dreams and I don't know if I can bring anything in. So I said, well, it could be anything. It could just be, a childhood nightmare you had. Anything, just a tiny dream snippet will do. So the next week, we came back to the class, and this guy who was in his late 50s, he said, I can only remember one tiny dream snippet from my childhood, and I don't know if it's enough to work with. And I said, oh, well, what is it? And he said, it's just this dream image of my grandmother swinging dead from a rope in the barn. And I said, oh, okay, that's plenty to work with. You can definitely work with that. It's a very strong image. So I gave them a technique to do. It's my lucid writing technique, where you re-enter the dream image and then write without stopping to allow this unconscious imagery to change and develop into something else. So we just did this for about 5 minutes. And when we finished, the man looked visibly shaken. And he said, I've just had this incredible revelation. I've realized this was not a dream image. He said, this is something that actually happened to me when I was 8 years old. When I was a boy, I came back to the family farm, went into the barn and found my grandmother swinging dead from a rope. She'd killed herself. And I'd forgotten about this for all these years because my family was so ashamed that they said that nobody must know the truth. They said to everybody that the grandmother had died, but not that she'd killed herself. And so this little boy, aged 8, had to completely suppress all his feelings about his grandmother, and her name was taboo in the family. He wasn't allowed to talk about her or grieve for her. He wasn't allowed to mention what had happened, that he'd found her like this. And so all that trauma got pressed down and down and down, so that in fact he completely forgot about it for 50 years. And now he'd discovered it just from doing 5 minutes of lucid writing. And the good thing was, he said that now, having remembered that this was a real memory, he had a much deeper understanding of his life, of his childhood, of why his mother was always the way she was, and the events that subsequently happened in his family. He said it felt like a piece of a puzzle had just fallen into place, and now he had the whole picture of his childhood. So that for him was the first step towards really understanding himself and his childhood. So you don't have to be a frequent lucid dreamer to benefit from the healing power of dreams or anything else that we have in our unconscious, these past memories, whatever it is that we've got inside. We don't have to become lucid in a dream to be able to work with our dreams. And so there are many ways of doing what I call lucid dream play, which is when we work and play with dreams in a way that mirrors the possibilities of lucid dreaming. So, for example, you can identify the healing image in a dream and then work on incorporating that into your life for greater healing. You can re-enter the dream and guide it in a new direction to change nightmare stories, for example. You can develop dream-inspired inspirations and visualizations that will help you in your life. And you can transcend a negative self-image and even receive teachings or gifts from your dreams when you work with them when you're awake, just to find out what's happening in them and absorb their higher energy. So all these are techniques, different kinds of lucid dream play techniques, and they can help us to understand and work with our dreams. In lucid dreams, we can guide and change the action of our dream, or simply be aware of the flow of the action and go along with it. And we can do a very similar thing when we use my lucid writing technique, which is the one that the guy used to work on this dream or this past memory of his grandmother. So when we work with our unconscious imagery in this way, we can just spontaneously allow it to develop and see if something healing or some kind of insight comes from it. One man I worked with, Steve, had a dream of a snake. It was a nightmare. He was in a cabin and this really poisonous viper was on the floor of the cabin and it was coming towards him, and he was completely petrified. He couldn't move, he couldn't react, he was just absolutely terrified. And so he decided to work on this dream using a technique, a lucid writing technique, where you re-enter the skin of your dream animal, just mentally, and you write with the voice of your dream animal. And when he did this, he wrote with the voice of this poisonous viper, and he soon realized that actually it didn't want to hurt him. It had brought him a gift. And the moment he realized this in his writing, he saw an image of this snake transforming into a big, really beautiful tree. And then from that, it transformed into a graceful, strong Bengal tiger. So his lucid writing had produced this wonderful stream of healing imagery that he could then use anytime he wanted in his life when he needed to feel strong, sure of himself, graceful. So it can really help to have these healing experiences through lucid dream play, lucid writing, and other techniques. Another lucid dream play technique is a very simple one. When you have a nightmare image and you want to work on it and you don't really know how to work on it, you can simply re-enter the nightmare in your mind's eye and then send healing golden light to the nightmare image and see what happens. And Svetlana did this. She had actually asked for a dream about her health situation, and she ended up having a lucid nightmare where this horrible alien leapt out of her belly, and it was like a demon or an alien, very frightening, and it jumped into her face, and she woke up with a terrible shock from this nightmare. And then when she worked with it, I did this Healing Dreams workshop, and I asked everybody to take a dream that they didn't feel happy with and see what happened if they sent it this golden light. So she began sending golden light to this weird alien thing. And in fact, it transformed completely. It became like a golden ball of light, and she realized it was like the center of her energy. It was like a battery pack that was charging her up, and it was actually something very healing. And so again, for her, it took the terror out of her nightmare, and it showed her that she could transform these strange things she hadn't understood in her dream into something very healing and indeed energizing for herself. For me, dreams, I've always looked to my dreams every time I have any kind of problem in my life. If someone I love has died, then I seek a healing moment with them in my dream. If I get sick, then I ask my dreams for help. I ask them for information about the sickness. And whenever I have some sort of trauma in my life, my dreams don't hesitate to show me exactly how I feel. So once, when my baby was very young, she nearly died, and I managed to save her life. But afterwards, I was very anxious that it might happen again. And I kept having these horrible nightmares of finding a baby dead in its cot and not being able to revive it. And these dreams were so terrible, it really upset me. And I decided to become lucid the next time I had this nightmare. And in fact, I did become lucid the next time it happened. And I shouted and I released all my anguish and agony through this shouting at the dream. And then incredibly, there was this spontaneous reaction. Out of nowhere, there was this deep sense of peace and healing, and my whole body just kind of sparkled with this lovely energy, and I felt completely happy and completely safe and completely loved. It was an astonishing transformation. And from that dream, I woke up buzzing with the same energy in my body. And after that dream, everything got better. My anxiety around my baby just completely disappeared, and I became more able to appreciate my life and be happier again in my situation. So our dreaming mind actually wants us to heal. It really wants us to heal. It's as simple as that. So if we allow dreams to guide us, then they can help us to heal our lives. If you need to ask me any questions, if you want to contact me, you can do so through my website, which is www.deepluciddreaming.com. I'm happy to help if I can, and I wish you luck and joy exploring your dreams. Thank you.